You will spend 40 years doing work that exhausts you, to afford things that don't fulfill you, to impress people you don't respect. And you will call it stability. The only honest word for what you're describing is a slow, voluntary defeat. Most people never gamble with their real life. They gamble with money, with time, with smaller things. But the actual wager, the one that would cost them their comfort, their identity, the quiet story they tell themselves about who they are, that bet stays on the table, untouched, forever. And the tragedy is not that they're afraid to lose. The tragedy is that they've already lost, without ever playing. Seneca wrote about this, not the way philosophers usually write about fear, at a careful academic distance. He wrote about it the way a man writes when he's looked at his own life and refused to accept what he saw. He wrote, "He is a great man who uses earthenware dishes as if they were silver. But he is equally great who uses silver as if it were earthenware." That line is not poetry. That line is a blueprint. What follows is an explanation of that blueprint and what happens to a person who actually builds it. So let's be honest about what anxiety actually is. Strip away the clinical language. And what you have is this: anxiety is your brain running a simulation of the future and flinching at what it sees. The unknown scenario, the unnamed disaster, the thing that might happen if you step outside the perimeter of what you currently control. And the modern world is extraordinarily good at feeding that simulation. Every advertisement you've ever seen runs on the same fuel. The suggestion that what you have is fragile, that it could be taken, that without this product, this insurance, this next promotion, you are exposed. You have been, your entire life, gently trained to be afraid of having nothing, which means the moment you have something, you are owned by it, completely. This is not an accident. This is the cage. Now, what if I told you the cage has no lock? When critics hear about the Seneca method, they call it extreme, masochistic. Why would anyone choose to be uncomfortable? And here's the answer: because comfort chosen is power. Discomfort endured accidentally is suffering. The moment you walk into the hard thing deliberately, you have completely inverted the psychological equation. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your own stress test. And people who have run their own stress test cannot be threatened with it anymore. Think about what that means in practice. Someone uses your fear of failure to control you. In a negotiation, in a relationship, in a career conversation. They apply pressure by implying, "You could lose this." And you look back at them and you feel nothing. Because you have already been where they're trying to send you. You survived it. You built breakfast there. The threat has no edge left. The blade is dull, and they can see it on your face. Here's what happens when people around you notice you've stopped being afraid. They don't celebrate it. Let's be clear about that. They get uneasy. The people who relied on your anxiety, consciously or not, suddenly find that their primary instrument of influence has gone silent, and they will call it coldness. They'll call it detachment. Some of them will call it arrogance. Let them. Because the thing they're actually describing, the quality they can't quite name and can't quite stand, is immunity. And immunity looks threatening to anyone who's been using your vulnerability as leverage. Seneca understood this. He wasn't writing advice columns. He was writing to men who operated in the most politically lethal environment of the ancient world, imperial Rome. The advice was survival architecture, and the core of it was always the same. Reduce what can be taken from you, and you reduce what they can use against you. Let me show you exactly how this works in the body of another person. When someone applies social or professional pressure on you, they are running a calculation. The calculation is, does this person have more to lose than I do? If the answer is yes, they escalate. If the answer is no, they recalibrate. Most people spend their lives being the person with more to lose. They've accumulated comfort, status, expectation, and all of that accumulation becomes surface area for attack. The Seneca practitioner has a different profile. He has voluntarily reduced his dependencies, not permanently, this is critical, but periodically, deliberately as training. He knows in his body, not just his mind, that the floor exists. and it is not as far down as it looks. So when pressure arrives, his nervous system does not spike. His voice stays even, his eyes stay level. And the person applying the pressure watches their weapon pass through him like smoke. That stillness is not performance. It cannot be faked. It is earned. Now, let me give you the actual protocol, because this is where most people get it wrong. The Seneca method is not about self-punishment. It is not about poverty cosplay. A man who tortures himself to feel superior has missed the point entirely. That is ego dressed as philosophy. The correct application is precise. Seneca himself, in letter 18, described it this way. Set aside a period, a few days, during which you live on the bare minimum. Simple food, basic shelter, stripped back routine. And while you're doing it, ask yourself, is this the thing I was afraid of? That question is the whole experiment. Here's the sequence. You pick a window. 3 to 5 days works well for a first run. You remove your most relied upon comforts, one tier at a time. Not everything at once. You're not building character through punishment. You are conducting a calibration. You are teaching your nervous system a fact that your conscious mind already suspects, but hasn't yet believed. The fact is, you can do this. You have always been able to do this. The dread was never about the deprivation. It was about the unknown of the deprivation. Once you know, the dread dissolves, not partially, completely. There is a specific quality of person I want you to picture, not a warrior, not a monk. Something more unsettling than both. The person who has genuinely run this experiment, who has sat on the floor and eaten nothing interesting and had nothing to perform with, tends to develop a particular kind of stillness, a specific gravitational weight. The ancient world had different words for it. Apatheia, not apathy. That's the mistranslation. The Greek meant freedom from being enslaved by your own reactions. The person who reaches this state does not perform calm. They simply are not moved. They do not need your approval to function. They do not need your validation to make a decision. They do not need the outcome to go their way in order to maintain their equilibrium. And this is the quality that makes the ordinary social leverage systems completely inoperable. You cannot threaten a person with loss when that person has made peace with losing. You cannot manipulate someone with status anxiety when they have already lived without status and found it survivable. They become, in the most literal sense, unlockable. Think about where you are right now. I don't mean geographically, I mean internally. Think about the last time someone's disapproval genuinely disrupted your week. Think about the last decision you delayed. Not because you lacked information, but because you were waiting for enough certainty to feel safe. Think about the version of yourself who knows right now that there are moves you will not make because the downside is too frightening to hold in your mind for more than a few seconds. Now hold that image, hold it clearly. And then consider the alternative. A version of yourself who has been to the bottom of the scenario and returned. Who knows, not believes, not hopes, knows that the floor holds. That the minimum viable version of your life is still a life. That even if everything you've built came apart tomorrow, the thing doing the building would still be here. That version of yourself does not negotiate from fear, does not shrink from rooms, does not wait for permission. The equation is simple, brutal, but simple. It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the man who hankers after more. Seneca wrote that in a letter almost 2,000 years ago. And it has never stopped being true, because the scarcity is never in the bank account. The scarcity is in the mind, and the chaos experiment is how you fix the mind. Most people will watch this and feel something, a flicker, a recognition, and then they will scroll forward, and the feeling will dissolve, and by tomorrow, they will be running the same simulations they always run. That's fine. That is the statistical outcome. But some of you, a small percentage, and you already know who you are going to sit with this. You're going to go back to letter 18. You're going to design your 3-day experiment. You're going to do the thing that 99% of people will describe as strange or unnecessary or pointlessly difficult. And 6 months from now, you will not be able to fully explain to the people around you what changed. You will just notice that things that used to move you no longer do. That decisions that used to cost you weeks now cost you an afternoon. That transformation is not a metaphor. It is a neurological recalibration, and it is available to anyone willing to sit in the discomfort long enough to let it stop being uncomfortable. If this found something in you, share it, not for the algorithm, because the person who needs this next is probably someone you already know. The chaos experiment starts whenever you decide to stop waiting for safety.